Do you want more lights in here?
No, that's.
I'm fine.
You're fine? Okay.
She thinks it's fine.
She thinks
She
it's fine.
thinks it's fine.
Then it's fine.
I'm fine
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Let's start with the beginning. You became, well, not overnight stars. And in between there was this illness of Marie. And you had to start again, in a way. Is it hard to do a second outcoming?
No, not really, because when Marie got ill in 2002, I immediately started working on other projects and other things, which went very well for me. So I was like between 2002 and 2010, when we had the Roxette comeback, was probably the busiest time of my life. So I worked and did so many things. So for me, Roxette was history. So I was really surprised when Marie called me up. I was touring Europe on my own in 2009. I did an album called Party Crasher, and she visited a show in Amsterdam with her husband. And I was really surprised because I didn't know she was attending. And she came backstage and I said, we should do a couple of Roxette songs on stage. The crowds are going to go crazy. And she didn't want to do it. She was really shy and she didn't have any self-confidence, and she hadn't been on stage for many, many years. But eventually I talked her into doing it. So she came up on stage and we did Listen to Your Heart and The Look, something just acoustically. And the crowds went nuts, of course. And I think Marie got really energized by that. So 2 weeks after that moment, she called me up and said, why don't you write a new album? I'm ready to go. Let's do some more Roxette. And I said, what? Really? So I started working on what eventually became Charm School. And off we went, slowly but surely. We did the Night of the Proms thing in 2010. Because we only did 4 songs, and that was what Marie was sort of capable at the time. And then we started doing our own tours, longer and longer shows, and suddenly we were back in the limelight again.
When you become stars, it's usually after touring, small clubs, small venues, and the hall's getting bigger and bigger all the time. Do you find it hard to keep in touch with the audience when the halls become 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 stadiums? How do you manage to keep in touch with your fans or the audience? You know what?
It's easier today to do that because of the internet. You know, I run the Roxette Facebook site myself, so I every day I post things and comment on things and have discussions with people. In the old days, it was much harder to do that, but from a musical point of view, it was never an issue with Roxette. The first Roxette concerts we ever did was big outdoor shows in Sweden. That was the summer of 1987. So, I mean, Roxette has never been playing the clubs or coming from that circuit like my Swedish band did. We started playing the clubs, and like 150 people, and it grew to 300 people, and 500. Roxette never did that. And also musically, Roxette has always been, the music itself has always been pretty big music, Listen to Your Heart, Spending My Time, all those songs work really well in a football stadium because people sing along and people it's like a big movement thing going on. So musically, it has never been a problem for us. And I think that is also why we've been capable of dealing with that kind of big crowds all the time. We just came off the Australian tour where we played it was between 8,000 and 15,000 people. And it works just fine. But it works fine in the theater as well. We played clubs for like media people and this and that these days. But it's fantastic to do that. 800 people, wonderful.
But media people is different.
Yeah. But still it works, yeah.
Would you prefer, if you had the chance to go with Roxette into smaller clubs, into small venues, playing very intimate gigs, or maybe even acoustic gigs? Would you prefer that instead of doing the biggest shows?
No, I wouldn't
Or a
prefer.
good mixture?
Yeah, well, I can see us doing that. It would be great. I remember just this little thing we did in the 90s, the MTV Unplugged thing. It works very well. All those songs, or most of the songs anyway, that I write are written on acoustic guitar or piano. So I mean, they're born out of that sort of vein, so to speak. So that could very well be an issue for us to do, a path for us to go. But I don't want to say no to the other thing, because I think that's cool too. I think it's fantastic nowadays when we're touring. For this particular tour, we have a pretty big production, and I think it's just great to be able to use, like, films and footage and projections and this and that, and things you can only do when you're playing bigger places. So I like both.
Do you find it hard to, as everybody is expecting a new hit and another new hit, especially as the company is, do you find it very hard to produce hits on the running in a way? Or how do you manage to cope with this feeling that everybody's waiting for the next hit, and then there's maybe not that big hit coming, just a smaller one? How do you cope with that? How do you work this out?
Well, I think nowadays you don't think about it at all. I mean, in the old days, there was this sort of pressure, not at least from ourselves, to deliver. As soon as I remember after It Must Have Been Love became number one in the States, everyone was expecting the follow-up single, because it was, and the follow-up single was Joyride, thank God, which became a smash. But but nowadays it's like I don't think like that anymore, and it's like and I never had a recipe for writing hits. Everyone thinks that it's like there are recipes for writing hits. There isn't. I think what you do, you try to. I think you try to combine your style as a writer with. If you want to, you can go into new directions. I'm a pretty curious person when it comes to music, so I like to work with new people all the time and getting new blood and new stamps of DNA into my music, because I think it's interesting to see what happens. That's one way to go. Or you can put another cap on and just stay where you are and do your thing in the same way forever and ever, because that works too. But I think it's more fun to try to explore, your own limits, and but that at the same time means that you never know if it's going to work. Maybe it's just crap. Maybe the new album will turn out the worst record ever made. I don't know, but I don't think so, because it's not done yet. It's just halfway through.
On the other hand, who wants to become the Rolling Stones?
As long as they're enjoying what they do, which I think Keith Richards is doing. I think Mick Jagger would have wanted a little bit more hits. But on the other hand, it's the last time I saw Stones was in Christmas 2013, I think, in London, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good, much better than it was like 10 years ago.
On the other hand, I don't like the Stones. Okay. But this is different.
Yeah.
I'm from the Beatles fraction.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm from both.
But what's your recipe for writing music, except of changing to new musicians, to new things? But what drives you to write songs? What gives you the ideas, and how do you work?
I think, first of all, I'm very much. I'm raised on the 60s and 70s style of music, and that is a very particular type of songwriting, which in my case means that everything is very melody oriented. I always write melodies. That's how songs are started out. I always fool around on an instrument and write melodies, and from the vibe I get from the melody, I think about how the lyrics should be, because I'm really interested in writing lyrics. When I started writing songs as a kid, when I was 13, 14 years old, I started actually writing lyrics before I started writing music, because I was really into lyrics. But anyway, so that is basically what I'm trying to do. I try to write great songs. That's what I do, and that is the whole essence of Roxette or my Swedish stuff or anything. It's all about the songs for me. And that is a big difference with Marie, because for Marie it's very much about singing. And that is why we're a great team. If Marie would pay as much attention or spend as many years exploring herself from a songwriting point of view, we could never work together, because we would be competing each other.
How can I imagine that you write songs? You wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh, there it is. And you go down to the piano, sit down and scribble along on the paper. And how does it work?
It has happened, but it's not very common. It could be. It's more like I'm in the middle. I'm working on a project. I'm working on different projects all the time. But let's say I'm working on a Roxette album. The first thing I do is to think about, what are we doing here? What kind of direction are we going to go? How's the production going to be like? What are we looking for? Is it going to be like a dance-oriented album? Is it going to be a guitar-driven album? Whatever. As soon as I got those ideas done, I'm just having my antennas out, and I can sit in front of the TV set with my guitar and turn down the volume and just watching the TV and playing things. And if something interesting comes out, I record it on my iPhone. And I have like 400, 500, 600, 700 snippets on my computer, which I sometimes go back to listen to. And sometimes it's fantastic stuff. Sometimes I might write a song, a verse and a chorus, and I need like a great second musical theme in the song. And I can go back to my little computer and check out June 2008. This is fantastic, and it's even in the right key. So it's a G minor, and I use this one. So it's like putting a puzzle together. And also at the same time, I'm just going to say, 9 out of 10 times you do things, you just throw it away because it's not good enough. And that is something that I, over the years, I've been much tougher on myself when it comes to that. If it's not good enough for me, I can't go on working with it. It has to be interesting for me from the first sort of piece of puzzle.
Did you notice yourself when getting older makes you tougher?
Makes you tougher in a way, but like I said, I'm tougher on myself in a way. On the other hand, I'm more relaxed in my work because my self-confidence is much better nowadays, and I don't feel like I have anything to prove for myself anymore when it comes to my music. So it's like it's with this new compilation album that came out, I'm extremely proud when I look at all those songs. Shit, I wrote all this stuff, and it's a fantastic catalog of songs, and also when we're doing the shows, it's just amazing to have this enormous treasure of songs that people all over the world love. So that means also that for me, and also I guess for Marie, it is a much more relaxed situation. You don't have to we don't necessarily have to make a new album. We don't necessarily have to have 3 major hit singles on the album. If that happens, hooray. But if it doesn't happen, who cares? Because if it's a good album, it's a good album. And also the music industry has changed so much, and I don't know, I used to know how the music industry worked, and I used to know how people, including myself, listen to music. And I nowadays, especially in Sweden, where streaming is the most common way of listening to music, people are not really, you could remember those days when you bought a turntable and you spent a fortune for the little needle. You remember that, the stylus thing? And nowadays people are listening to music through an iPhone or Spotify, which is like so quality, and you spend hours and weeks in the studio, with all these little tiny details, and nobody cares anymore.
I still spend a fortune on this.
Yeah, you do that. Yeah, I like to hear that. Yeah, me too, actually. I think
old school.
Yeah, old school, and that's good. But at the same time, I think it's very easy to when you get older to say sort of, I'm done with all the news. I want it to be like it was, and part of me is like that. I try to use my experience and make something good out of it, and that's why I also try. Every time, I always said, for every project I've done ever since I was a kid, I always changed one person in the team for every record, because we all need new blood all the time, new influences, new discussions, new arguments, new everything.
but not new singer.
Not well. I work with other singers as well. Sometimes you need new singers as well. And same with Marie. Everything she's done outside of Roxette, I haven't been part of at all, because she needs someone else to work with as well. So I think it's otherwise it becomes like a bad marriage. You just do things, take things for granted. I think you have a responsibility towards yourself from a creative point of view to challenge yourself all the time. And as long as I think like that, I'm in a good position, I think. Because there might come a day when I feel like, hey, I'm fed up with the business, I'm fed up with touring, I'm fed up with, I don't want to play It Must Have Been Love anymore. I played it 2,000 times. But I don't feel like that. I feel like, hey, it's a blessing to play It Must Have Been Love. So I'm just really happy that I think like this.
You still love to play Joyride?
Love it. Any day I'll play it for you.
Does it change from concert to concert, or is it in such a manner that you just close your eyes and play along?
No, I told you about this tour I did in 2009. That tour, the European tour, that was a club tour for the Party Crash album. And that tour was a big moment for me, because I put together my favorite players, and I said, let's do a very guitar-driven power pop set, including lots of Roxette material, including lots of my own solo stuff. And that was the most fun tour I ever did, because it was 100% live, no tricks whatsoever, no computers, no backing vocals running on tracks and everything. Everyone is doing. It was 100% live, and when Roxette did the comeback thing, I told Marie, this is where Roxette should do. We shouldn't go back to trying to duplicate the recorded versions of the Look or Joy. We should play it like a guitar-driven band should have done it, a 5-piece band. Because it's so much more fun to do that. We take my band and put you in the middle of it. That's what I said. And that is exactly what Roxette has become. It's a 100% organic live band, which changes the songs. Christopher is the lead guitar player. If he's in a fantastic mood, the look just goes on for 8 minutes, because he's just a fantastic guitar player and he loves to play. And it triggers us all, sometimes. And that's why we try to scrap songs once in a while, even though they're very popular. The next day we play them, and I think it's just to keep everything alive, the whole scenario. And that's you can't do that as long as you have a computer running, and a time code for the lights or whatever. You're stuck. Then every show becomes the same, similar to the next one.
You're going on tour now in the next few weeks, months.
Yeah, early May. Yeah.
And you're going to Prague as well. What would you say is the fans in the Czech Republic? Are they different from the one in Sweden, UK, Germany, US? Is there a special type of fans all over the world, from country to country?
Spontaneously, I would say that most crowds are similar, but when I say that, I think of the more northern you get, the more north you get, like Novosibirsk in Russia, or Helsinki, or Stockholm for that matter, the more polite and silent, shy, call it what you want, people are. The more south you get, the more hula baloo it becomes. Playing South America is so much fun, because people are just going crazy 2 hours before the show even. So Prague is a fantastic place to play, because the crowds are really good there, and we always sell a lot of tickets there. And I think this is almost sold out, the show in Prague already. So it's great playing there, but it's Central Europe. It's just fantastic to play.
Just one last question, because they're looking already.
Long answer. So sorry.
No, that's fine. If there would be this wonderful little fairy who would grant you one wish, anything, what would that wish be?
Is it from a personal point of view, just anything?
Yeah, anything. Just you.
Not
Roxette,
no.
Just Per.
Well, I think it's maybe it has a lot to do with age as well, getting older. But I think I'm getting a little bit scared about the state of the world, because it for some reason it feels like it's so many things so many issues are happening on this planet at this very moment as we speak, with the Syria and Ukraine, and it's a sort of a shaky time which my generation has never experienced, and especially not coming from Sweden. We've had peace for 200 years, and I think it's so. If I had a little wish, I would think that this little fair could sort things out, so everyone would be smiling a little bit more.
Thanks a lot for the interview.
Thank you. Pleasure.